Aloha, ikomo mai, and welcome to another episode of Living in Hawaii. So glad you could join us here today. My name is Carol Spearling. I am your host here today, and we are talking about a very important topic in the thought of living in Hawaii. Of course, we always need to have our furry four-legged friends with us. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is the health certificates, vaccinations, quarantine procedures, etc. And today joining me, I have three other contributors and so glad to have them. Soraya Letinal, she has been a contributor before. How are you doing today, Soraya?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Good to have you. And Christy Nakamura, she is going to be a new contributor here. Christy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself since we haven't had you on the show before?
Absolutely. So I am Christy Nakamura. I live on the island of Oahu. And while I've been living here, I've really gotten into like the ridgeline hiking and being in the water anytime we can and bringing the furry friend along with us for the ride.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, it's great to take them with you everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
And also Patrick Chandler. He is a returning contributor. Patrick, welcome. How are you doing today?
Doing fabulous. Enjoying a little bit of the moisture that we've recently been getting over here on Oahu. So doing fabulous.
Great, great, great. Well, glad to have you folks all here with us because I believe you folks all have furry friends and four-legged companions, which they are, you know, just your heart and soul, right? I always laugh when I read little blips about when you're married or have a significant other. And when you leave in the morning, you're like, okay, bye, see you tonight. But when you're with your dog, it's give a kiss. I love you. Okay, take care of yourself. I'll be home soon. I love you. And another kiss because you know, your significant other, you know, yeah, whatever, but your dog is something special. So yeah, we're going to be talking about health certificates and vaccinations because it's super important to get in the process prior to moving to Hawaii. This is like a 3 to 4 month prior process to make sure that your dog and cat can come to Hawaii and be direct release at the airport potentially and not have to be in any kind of a quarantine. We have very strict regulations here in Hawaii because we do not have rabies. And that is a very important fact about Hawaii and that we have a rabies-free status. So we're going to go through a step-by-step guide to help you folks understand and know what to do, how to plan, and how to go from there. So I'm looking forward to educating you guys on how this works. So Soraya, maybe you can start us out. Microchip, rabies,
Sure.
Can you tell us?
Absolutely. So the first thing you want to do is you want to ensure that your pet is microchipped. And if they don't have that, they definitely need to get it. It is a requirement prior to coming to Hawaii. You have to also ensure that that's done prior to any vaccinations or tests, which are required prior to coming to Hawaii. Here, there's the information of the type of microchip that's required. It's an ISO 11784. Don't know what that means, but I'm guessing it's the latest one. And the second thing that you want to ensure is that your pet also is rabies-free. Just like Carol mentioned, we do not have rabies in Hawaii. So that's one of the things that they're very strict on is ensuring that your pet does not have rabies. So the first vaccination is administered after microchipping. It ensures that it's an inactivated rabies vaccine. Then the second vaccination is at least 30 days after the first vaccination, and it has to be administered at least 30 days prior to your arrival in Hawaii and within the vaccine's validity period.
Okay, well, that's super good information, Soraya. Now, microchip also so important to have your pet microchipped here in Hawaii because if they get lost or something happens, they, if anything happens and somebody else finds them, they can go to a vet and have that scanned and then be able to contact the owner.
Yeah.
So that absolutely is, just having the microchip and then the rabies also. So that's super important. Thank you. All right. Christy, we're going to ask you to talk to us a little bit about what's going on next and how this whole thing works.
Absolutely. So after you do the first two steps that Soraya went over, the next important thing is to make sure that you have your rabies antibody titer test done, also called the FAVN. And this has to be timed within 30 days after that second rabies vaccination has been administered. And it's very important on how this is actually done. So this has to be done by the licensed vet. And then there are only a couple of approved laboratories across the US. They have to send the blood sample there. And then the result must show a rabies antibody level of at least 0.5 IU per ml. The test is valid for 36 months. With that being said, just from experience, there is a long waiting period at times if you're like in the middle of PCS season for them to receive the results and process them and get the results back to you. So the timing on bringing your pet here is super important to make sure that you have enough time to get all of this done prior to the pet being moved here. The next part is there is a waiting period, 30 days from the date that the laboratory receives the blood sample. And that again is going to be if they're not backed up, right? Your pet cannot enter Hawaii until this period is complete. So again, that timing is just really essential to make sure that as soon as you get here, you get to take your fur baby home with you.
Wow. So that's actually, we're getting into not just 1 month, but we're looking at like 2 months at this point of planning and getting your pet ready. And for you as well, thinking about moving here and having them set up so that there is no hiccup in them arriving with you when you land here in Hawaii. And, so now we're looking at about 2 months out. And then Patrick, we're going to ask you for the next slide to go through some of the other things that are required and for your pets.
Absolutely. So a couple other things that as we're continuing through this checklist, and by the way, just so you're aware, this checklist that we're reviewing with you right now, you can actually download it off the Department of Agriculture website and take it in with you to your vet, which I highly recommend. This is what I did when we brought our furry family over. So just a little bonus tip here as we're moving along. Definitely download this checklist from the Department of Agriculture website. So if your vet is not familiar with the process, they can just read it right off the sheet. But the tick treatment and health certification, these need to be done 14 days in advance of you arriving. And then also the veterinarian must complete all of these examinations in advance of you arriving. And again, the timing is so important. If you're not doing it right within that 14-day window, it's going to potentially cause your pet, instead of being released to you at the airport, to go into a quarantine situation here on the island, which you want to avoid at all costs.
Wow. Yeah. The quarantine thing is not a good choice and have to happen for either you or your pets, because that quarantine station is on Oahu, not on an outer island. And so if you are moving to an outer island and this happens and you have to put your pet in quarantine, that's a whole nother situation that you have to have them there, and you can't really visit them because they're in quarantine. They can't, be handled or taken out or done anything with it. It's very stressful on your animal. And Patrick, that is a great tip about taking this and downloading it and taking it to your vet, because I think a lot of vets, especially maybe Midwest and East Coast, are really not familiar with any of our requirements in bringing your pet to Hawaii. So taking this in with them and having that information and being proactive is a great tip. Thank you so much for that, because that one is a biggie. Great. So then moving on, we are going to have some forms and fees and stuff. And maybe Christy, you can jump in on this.
Sure. So when you have all the other stuff done, you have to make sure that you have your forms filled out. So one of them is the dog and cat import form, the AQS-279. The timing on this has to be at least 10 days prior to arrival. When I did this, I sent it certified mail to make sure that I knew that they actually received it, because I was stressing that for some reason the pet wouldn't get here on time. So you've got a couple of different ways to do that. And then you also have your payment of fees. So if you are doing the direct airport release, it's going to be $185 per pet. 5-day or less program is $244 per pet. And then if you have to do that 120 20-day quarantine, it's going to be $1,080 again per pet. Payment should be made via cashier's check or money order payable to the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. So in addition to making sure that you have all of the timing done properly for your pet, you also have to make sure that you're going to budget properly for your pet so you don't get into unexpected fees for your finances.
Wow, that's good, Christy. Thank you for that. And the interesting thing too, and you can always reach out to any of us here at Living in Hawaii for input as far as vets locally on each island that you may be going to that can do direct airport release. And we can give you that as a resource, because doing the direct airport release is by far the best way to go. That they have someone from the vet facility meet the airplane, meet the pet, take a look at the papers, stamp it off, and there you go. It's a very quick and easy process. I have friends that bring their dogs every 6 months. They're here for 6 months and they go for 6 months, and they bring their dogs back and forth with them on that schedule. And they have the direct airport release, and it's a breeze. It's super, super easy. So if you can, reach out if you have any questions about veterinarians on each island, and we can help you with the resource there. All right. So once we arrive into Hawaii, normally the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport is the primary entry point. However, there are direct flights to outer islands, some outer islands. So it really just depends upon where your target is where you're going to be landing and where you're going to be living for your living in Hawaii. And then again, inspection upon arrival. Your pet's going to undergo the requirements and look at the paperwork and go through to make sure that everything is done so that they can direct release, and then go to the beach, take them to the beach, throw the ball, go have fun, and just live in Hawaii with your pet. And that is so nice to have your family with you. All right. So airline. Yes, Soraya.
That's the first thing we did. When we landed in Kona with our 2 dogs, we stopped at the harbor that's right by the airport. Yeah, and we let the dogs out. We were so excited. It's their first stop in Hawaii.
Oh, see, and that's the great thing to have that direct airport release, is because you get them in your car with you, and you have them, and it's just like that little 5-hour airplane ride was not stressful. It was not that bad, because now we're here in Hawaii, and go play in the water and go after your ball. So from here, we're going to be heading on to some of the airline policies, because there are certain restrictions that the airlines have as far as the size of your dog, where they're going to travel. And Patrick, maybe you can kind of go over some of this with us.
Absolutely. So airlines are constantly changing their policies. So anything we share with you today may be outdated tomorrow. So it's one of those things that you got to kind of check on every day. Some will allow you to have them in the cabin, some will not. And even some airlines that allow you to have your pets in the cabin may only allow like maybe 2 pets in the cabin. So you want to make sure you reserve that in-cabin spot early so that you don't get bumped into under storage. So, and again, it's going to depend on your the size of your pet as well. If you've got a larger member of your furry family, they're probably going to go under the plane anyway. But if you have a smaller pet and you're looking to bring them in the cabin, then you're definitely going to want to do a little bit more research on what airlines are going to allow that. And then typically they only allow like 1 or 2 per flight because of potential allergen situations with the passengers. That's something to be aware of, to make sure you get to be the one, so to speak.
That's really important, because especially if you're on the same plane with your pet, you want to make sure that they are booked on the same flight, so that way you guys arrive together and they feel comfortable. And one of the things, and Patrick mentioned, as far as that some of them, as a larger animal, is going to go underneath down underneath the plane in the luggage area, I guess. And then the smaller pets are up top. My friends that go 6 months on their crate, they have a very large dog. And on the crate, they have written, "Hi, my name is Roscoe. I'm very friendly. I like to drink water and play with a ball." So that the handlers at the airport actually can put a name to the dog, which is a really neat thing. So that's something to consider if you have a large animal that's going to be being handled by the airport personnel, is just to make it a little bit more personal.
And one thing I almost forgot when it comes to booking your flight, the quarantine stations those guys are like a 9 to 5. So at the airport. So if you don't land, and I believe that according to the DO website, they want you there by like 3:30. So they have at least an hour to get you from the plane to the airport quarantine station for processing. If you don't get in with that window, your dog will then be transported to the quarantine station off site in Halava for pickup the next morning. So if you want your dog that day, make sure your flight is landing during the daytime business hours so you can go to the airport quarantine station after they've been processed, and then you can pick them up. So that's a huge important factor as well when it comes to the airlines, the timing of your flights.
That's a good tip, because veterinarians for the direct release, same thing, right? They work certain hours. They're not going to go down there at 8 o'clock at night to direct release your pet. So that super good tip. Thank you so much.
They will if your flight is delayed, but not happily.
And they'll probably charge you a little bit more too, probably.
Yep.
All right, Christy, a little bit about in-cabin versus cargo. Anything on that?
So the pet travel policy, so we have the in-cabin versus cargo. So if you're in cabin, it's going to be those smaller pets. But the thing with that is you can't take out your dog or cat and just snuggle with it on the airplane, right? You're going to have to leave it in the approved carrier underneath the seat, which I know can be hard for some of us, but one of the rules. And then for the cargo, when you have the larger pets, they're going to have the climate controls, pressure controls, but it can be a little bit more stressful on them just because they're away from you, they're underneath the plane. This may be a brand new experience for them and that kind of thing. And like Patrick talked about, there's going to be only 1 or 2 pets allowed per flight in the cabin. So really jumping ahead of the game and booking as far in advance as you can is going to be critical to get that kind of spot. For fees and documentation, it's all going to vary by airline, your health certificate and proof of vaccination per your vet. If you are military, going to an on-base vet is going to save you a ton of money for those health certificates and proof of vaccination. So that's something I would highly, highly recommend if you are military, because you're going to save on average hundreds of dollars compared to off-base vets for this. The other thing to keep in mind too is there are companies, at least on Oahu, that will start your paperwork from beginning to end for you. They'll tell you the forms that you need to fill out. They will register those and get them sent to the state, and they will actually coordinate the pickup, and then they can drop them off at your house for you. So if you're traveling with like a really big dog, and say you have a family of 4 and you're like, how am I supposed to get this dog from the airport in this huge crate with my, family or friends, whoever's coming with you? We do have some solutions with that, but with all things, right, that's going to come with an additional charge for them to coordinate all of the paperwork and help with the pickup and stuff.
Gosh, Christy, that is great information, especially the military and saving costs and, doing all of that. And again, folks, as you're watching this, you have any questions, reach out to us here at Living in Hawaii, because we have resources and we can help you. We can put you in touch with those resources for the military, for other people to transport your animals. Like Christy said, if you can't fit them all in the vehicle that you've rented, we have those resources. So please reach out to us here at Living in Hawaii, and we are happy to help for sure. All right. So now we're going to have the fun part, because Patrick, Soraya, Christy, and we all have our furry friends. So we are going to share now. I believe, Soraya, I think you're up first.
Oh, this is Haywood. Haywood is an old man, even though he looks like a little puppy. He's actually like 13. Oh, he is a rescue from Houston, Texas. And a little anecdote about, the process of bringing him here is that one of the FAVN centers that processes the blood test is actually in Houston, Texas. And so when we brought 2 dogs, we brought a husky and Haywood. Haywood was in the cabin because he's only like 16 pounds. And our husky is much larger, so she was under in the cargo. But the blood test shipping was so expensive, even though the center was in Houston, I actually put it on ice and drove it to the center. And it saved a lot of money that way. So there are ways around it. The whole process is pretty expensive to bring your pets. I just want to put it out there. But there are ways to work through that to try to make it maybe cheaper. Haywood loves Hawaii. We had no idea that he was an ocean dog because we were landlocked in Houston, Texas. And he loves boogie boarding. He actually scratches the boogie board to get on there and get rides in the ocean, and he'll swim forever. So it's really, really cute and a good surprise.
Wow, that's awesome. He looks like a great dog and a great companion. And just, having him with you and being able to bring him from Houston with you, and that he's a beach dog. That is exciting and
Yeah.
so amazing. So congratulations on getting him here. And, just something I do want to mention is different breeds of dogs handle airline travel differently too, because there are some breeds that cannot go on a plane. I recently had a friend that lived here in Kona, and they were moving back to the mainland, and their dog was I forget, it was like a bulldog, but it had a very short nose. So the very short nosed dogs, they have a breathing issues. So that's just something to consider, to check with your vet and find out and research the breed of dog that you have, that you're bringing, if they're going to be able to handle an airplane travel. So just FYI, coming to Hawaii, as that's another one just to think about. So Christy, what you got?
So we have two furry friends. We have Waffles and Nala. Both of these dogs actually came from Hawaii. So when I moved here, I brought a cat, but she was older and we have lost her. But we have these two furry friends. Waffles was from the Big Island. He is a miniature Bernedoodle and one of those like Velcro dogs. He cannot live without his people. So he kind of goes where we go. So he gets a nice muddy time when we're hiking. And he boogie boards, he paddle boards. We take out the kids and we have like 4 paddle boards. And he's so funny because you'll just see him in his life jacket and he'll jump off of one person's paddle board, swim over to somebody else's, hop up there with them, go for a while. And it's just super fun. And then we also have Nala. She's an old girl now and is kind of teaching Waffles how to be the guard dog of the house. So it's fun.
Oh, so cute. And I think it's a neat thing too, because like you said, you have Nala, she's a little older dog, and then she's teaching Waffles a little bit, of how to be. And I've done the same thing. We'll go to my slides and my dogs here in a minute, but I did the same thing. And you have an older dog that is trained and that knows what they're supposed to do, and they teach the younger dog, and that saves so much grief.
Absolutely.
Oh, Christy, thank you so much for sharing. I just love seeing all the mud on their feet and out her on the boogie board and everything. This is great. And Patrick, what you got?
So this is Brownie. So she's a little Jack Russell Dachshund mix that we got from the shelter on the mainland before we moved back here. And she's just she's a big dog in a little body. Like she'll be in our front yard running the fence line, barking at people, and then like we'll open the gate and they'll see her and they're like, all that noise was coming from her, kind of thing. So, but what you can't see from the picture is her tail is wagging like crazy right there. That's why it's kind of blurry. She's always super happy. We actually were in Seattle for like 2 years before coming back here. And she hated it. Like every time I would let her out, like her tail was down. She's like, oh, I hate the weather here. So even she didn't like Seattle. So when we moved here, she's just been ecstatic ever since. She loves going on like hikes. So even for a small dog, you think she would like run out of gas pretty quick. She's done like 5 miles plus and just goes. So she's an animal, no pun intended. And going on 10 years.
Wow. Well, she's in good shape, and you keep their nutrition and their exercise up. And Jack Russells, they are a bundle. They are a bundle. They have a lot. So I'm sure she likes to bark at her mynah birds and people going by, and it's but that's the whole deal too, is keeping your dogs healthy, keeping them exercise, not overfeeding them, feeding them good, healthy food, and not a lot of table scraps kind of a thing, and unhealthy food, because it definitely ages them. Christy, you have Nala, Brownie, and then, rolling into my animals. I have my Tuffy boy here. Tuff is going to be 14 this year, and he is in great shape. We do about a mile every morning and then in the afternoon as well. and he's 14. And Ginger is the youngster. She's 3, gonna be, yeah, we just said your name. She loves her ball. She has now, my dogs are Australian Kelpies. And, you know, just a little nugget for folks that like Australia does not have rabies. So if you want to bring a dog in from Australia, a Kelpie or a healer, you know, the Australian cattle dogs, you don't have to go through a lot of the things that you do coming from the US mainland, because Australia does not have rabies. So it may be a little bit more in shipping, but if you're looking for a herding dog and that type of thing, that's just a little nugget. But yeah, I've got Tough and, you know, Ginger. They're just my best friends. They're with me everywhere. And then also, just for folks watching and thinking about moving to Hawaii, there are options on shipping your horses. I have horses, and I have friends that ship their horses back and forth from the mainland for different events and stuff. So you can always reach out to us here at Living in Hawaii for any information as far as that. It's a little bit off our topic today, but I just wanted to throw it out there because a lot of folks that have dogs have horses and want to move to Hawaii. So there's options, and we are your resource here at Living in Hawaii. And we thank you guys for joining us today. Soraya, Christy, Patrick, you guys have a wealth of information, and we have some final thoughts. Maybe Soraya, you can kind of go through these.
Sure, absolutely. So definitely plan ahead, start your preparation at least 4 months before your intended travel date, because it does take quite a while if you have to do the rabies and the waiting periods in between. Make sure to keep records of everything and make copies of all documents, including the vaccination certificates, test results, and forms, because you will be handing out this information to multiple people. Consult with your veterinarian, work closely with your vet, ensure all procedures are correctly followed. That's exactly what we did. Just like Patrick said, we printed out all the forms, showed them to the vet, and we worked together with them and had a really close relationship to make sure that there wouldn't be any hiccups. Check your airline policies. That's a really big one. Confirm your airline pet travel policies, including the carrier requirements and any additional documentations. So one thing that we did with Haywood is we kind of put him on a diet before he came, just to make sure that he could be in the cabin and that we would not have any issues with the weight limits. So just double check all that stuff. Neighbor island arrivals. If you're traveling directly to islands other than Oahu, there are additional permits and arrangements that are necessary, which we covered today as far as the vet meeting you at the airport and things of that nature. So please refer to the specific checklist for the neighbor island inspection.
Great. Thanks, Soraya. And so, Patrick, I have to ask, for your little dog, what's his favorite toy and what's a favorite snack? We're kind of going into our closing thoughts here about each individual and our fur babies.
So favorite toy. So right now she's got this stuffed rooster with a squeaky in it that she will just attack. So which is good. We want her chasing the roosters. So because obviously here on the islands, and I don't care what island you're on, there's roosters. And so my dog is rooster trained, so that's like her favorite toy, and I'm all down for that. And then as for favorite snack, right now, just any treats that we get from the store-bought treats is really just what we keep it to. We don't do any table food for her. We keep it pretty clean with her diet, especially she's getting up in years. Usually whatever's organic and on sale at Costco.
There you go. There you go. All right. Yeah. Right on. Christy, how about your dogs?
So both of them are obsessed with lettuce. They like have this sixth sense when it comes out of the refrigerator that they're getting the bottom parts of it, and they're just sitting there waiting. And then we give them some blueberries too. So those are kind of the two biggest things. But I will say, Nala is obsessed with bread. So that is that's an issue. We cannot leave bread on we have a really big kitchen island. We cannot leave it there. We have to put it away, or somehow the big girl will jump up, knock it off, and get it. So we just lost 2 loaves of Molokai hot bread last week. So
well, he has good taste. She has good taste. It's the Molokai bread.
Right? Yeah. Lettuce, blueberries, and bread.
That's awesome. Well, then that's very healthy choices. Soraya, how about Haywood?
He's so strange. He loves bubble wrap. If we get a package that has bubble wrap, he goes insane. Like he just loves the crunchiness of like popping all those bubbles. It's hilarious. And his favorite snack is probably anything seafood related. It's wild. Like we get him treats with seafood because over steak, he will go for like a piece of salmon or whatever we're cooking that's a little shrimp. He just goes insane versus steak. It's really funny.
Why? Thank you. And for me, my dog's, tough. He's a little older. He doesn't really play with toys or do anything. But Ginger, she has her variety of toys out in her house. And the chicken, the squeaky chicken, we've got that. We've got a pig that grunts. And then her rope throws and everything. And she plays with them a lot. And then, of course, every night it's the tennis ball. So I've got one of those chuckets. And we've got to play for about 10 minutes just to wear her out enough so that she sleeps all night with the chucket, because otherwise your arm wears out for sure. Right. And as far as snacks, I've recently started kind of helping with, instead of buying canned food, I've started getting kabocha pumpkin, which is very proliferate here. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have the kabocha pumpkin, and I'll cook it down and make it soft, and I'll add plain yogurt to it, and then ripe avocado, which, there's variety of people about avocado, but I mean, if it's good for us, it's got to be good for them. And I mix that together and they love it, so just add that to their dry food, and then, whatever snacks here and there, not too much, but, we just have healthy dogs. We live a healthy lifestyle. We have our animals live a healthy lifestyle. So we're so glad that you folks all could join us here today. Soraya, Christy, and Patrick, so happy to have you guys. And we will see everyone here again on the Living Hawaii show. Next time, please reach out if you have any questions, you have anything about bringing your pets. We're more than happy to help, and we are a resource for you here. So aloha, and we'll see you next time.
Aloha.